Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Today I thought we would use Waffle Flowers Pumpkin Time Texture Die and the Pumpkin Time Coloring Stencils to make a card. So we are going to change this up just a little bit. First, we need to die cut our image. And our paper just popped right out of that die, but this does not release all of the images. The images stay intact in your panel. So what we want to do is we just want to put that on our grip mat, make sure that is stuck down, and bring in our stencils. And they have color suggestions on each stencil. This is a 3-piece stencil set. We just need to get our first stencil lined up, and this is for our larger pumpkins. So I've got 3 colors for my pumpkins. My larger pumpkins I'm going to do a little bit darker, and then my smaller pumpkins I am going to do a little bit lighter. So we've got peach fuzz, clementine, and persimmon. And on our larger pumpkins, we are using clementine and persimmon. I will have everything I used today listed and linked in the description below. And I want to make sure to tap off on my stencil and then just try to come in on the edges. I don't want blobs. And I'm just coming in and I'm going to try to avoid that stem in the center of the pumpkin. I do want my larger pumpkins darker, so we are coming in kind of heavy, but I want a nice smooth blend, so I'm going to make sure that I come off from the edge. I don't want to take my brush and just go directly into that pumpkin. And we're using quite a bit of ink here. I do want it dark, and I'm kind of holding that stencil down because this is a large image. I don't want that stencil to lift and then end up with ink where I don't necessarily want it. And we're just going to do that to all of our larger pumpkins here. I think that looks good for our clementine. So now what I'm going to do is really quickly, I am just going to wipe this off just a little bit just to get some of that ink off. And now we will come in with persimmon. And persimmon can be a pretty dark color. So I want to make sure that I tap off, and I am just going to basically go around the edges. I just want to add more shading, and you can really tell what a difference that persimmon makes just to the edge of those pumpkins. When you compare this one to the others, you can really tell. And we're just doing the edges. We've got our last one here. I hope everybody is doing well. It is beautiful here. We are kind of in the race for Christmas. I do not like to overlook Thanksgiving, but I feel like it's a rush to Christmas from here. So this card can be used as a Thanksgiving card, as a thank you card, any type of card. And I think that's looking good. Let's go ahead and get that off of there. Then we can bring in stencil number 2 and get that lined up. And these are our smaller pumpkins. So for these, we will first come in with peach fuzz. And I just want to go over these nice and lightly. Again, I'm going to avoid that stem. I know I'm going to hit it some, but I am going to not color over it. And I'm not going too heavy here with my peach fuzz. I want that to remain light. So now we can come in with our clementine, and I'm going to gently go around the edges, just like we did on our other pumpkins. I want to add color, but not too much. I think that looks good. We can take that off. And I love the contrast in the pumpkins. So now we can bring in our third and final stencil. And these are the stems and the leaves. And for my stems, we will be using dough on our lighter pumpkins and espresso on our darker pumpkins. You know what? We might need some masking tape. I am going to go in kind of heavy on those stems. I want to make sure that I get that whole area covered. I think we got all those lighter pumpkins. Now we can do the darker stems with espresso. Now I am just going to take my rag and avoid those leafy areas and wipe off that brown, because we will now be coming in with our green. And I am just going to mask off some of those stems that I don't want to get any green ink on. I think that's probably pretty good. And then we will be using olive and evergreen. So I want to come in heavy with my olive and color those leaves. I'm going to concentrate a little bit more at the base while I'm holding that stencil down in place, just as a precaution. So has anybody started decorating for Christmas yet? I have not. I refuse. I refuse to start decorating for Christmas until Thanksgiving is over. I know Christmas has been out in a lot of the stores already for quite a while, like since August, and I just can't do that. I have to wait. I have to give each holiday their allotted time. All right, so we're just continuing with our olive. So now that we've got all of our olive done, we can bring in evergreen. And for evergreen, I am using a little bitty brush. This is a 0 plus shader. I love these little brushes because the brush is very short, and so it gives you quite a bit of control. And I am just going to come in each leaf, do the bottom, and then go up the stem, just for even more shading. I always try to get as much depth in there as I can, and you can do that with different shades. So just the base of the leaf and then up the center. And it goes really quickly. All right, we are on our last leaf here. Let's get that stencil off and see what we've got. Oh, I love it. That green is so nice and deep, and that just really makes those pumpkins look so pretty. So now we can take our project off, and I've seen a lot of samples online using this die, and people will just take the image right now and add a sentiment, and that's good, and that is really pretty. But I want to get my images out of the paper. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to gently trim each one off of the panel. And you can just stick your scissors right underneath, lift it up, stick your scissors under there, and just trim it out. And you do kind of have to work your way around so you can get some of those loosened. So now that I've got all of those images freed, I'm just going to kind of look at that, pull back and see where it is attached, and just follow that cut line and just get those extra little pieces of paper off. So then we will have individual pumpkins, and I'll just do that with all of my pieces. Just follow that edge and trim off that excess paper. This is even easier than fussy cutting. So now that all of our images are free, we can start assembly. So for my background, I am bringing in Pretty Pink Posh's pierced leafy vines, and I didn't cut this. I actually dry embossed it because I didn't want my cuts to go all the way through. I just wanted a nice deep impression. And then I will also be using the inside outside scalloped elongated oval. And what I did here, I went ahead and I die cut that with some white cardstock, and I have left that in there. It actually cuts 3 pieces. You get your outside, your inside, and then a ring. And I want all of my images to stay together. So before I actually pop that out, I am going to add foam tape right across all of the cut marks because I want to keep everything together. I don't want these images separated. So I'm just going to go all the way around with some foam tape and keep it all together. And now those die cut images will stay together when we pop it out of the die. Then I can just put my pokey tool right in there and get that out. And now everything is all together. I've got all those release papers off there, and I am going to add my oval to my panel. So for my sentiment, I've got blessed beyond words, thankful beyond measure. And this came from the Grateful Heart Sentiment Stamp Set and Coordinating Die Set. And there are some great sentiments on here. You can make this into a Happy Thanksgiving card, grateful for you every single day, miss you, especially today. I think I'll put that on the inside of this card when I send it to my son. Love you always, celebrating from afar. Some really great sentiments there. So I know I want my sentiment in the oval here, closer to the top, and I am just going to bring in some of my die cuts and see what I like here. And so far, I think I am liking that. I think I'll put this one down there. I don't want images around the entire oval. I kind of want it a little open on the right hand side. I think that's looking good. And for my sentiment, I've got thick foam squares on the back of that because I really want that raised up. So let's add that first. Then we can get foam tape or foam strips behind our other images. And for that, I am going to use 2 thick. And I can look at that and I can see where those pumpkins are going to lay. And I can just add some foam strips right underneath that. And I will kind of fluff up my leaves a little bit before I stick that down. Then we can do the same with our other images on the bottom. And now I know I also want to add a little bit of pumpkin right down there, but I also want dimension on that. So I'm going to use some of the thinner foam squares for that. And these pumpkins are a little different, whereas normally when you see a pumpkin, you see it from the side. These are from the top view of pumpkins, and it's different. I like that. And then I have my extra images here that we didn't use. So I am just going to trim off the leaves, and we are going to scatter some leaves around. And these just trim off really easily because they've still got that cut mark in there. So for these, I am just going to adhere these directly down with liquid glue and get those attached underneath some of our pumpkins. So I've got all my leaves attached now. I can add my embellishments. And that card is done. I added my panel to a top folding card base. My embellishments are the matte gold pearls from Pinkfresh Studio. And I think I saw these are back in stock. They were out of stock everywhere for a long time, but I love that matte gold. And then for my embossing powder, I think I forgot to mention I used Brutus Monroe Gilded. And I just love that. I think that came out so cute. Just a different idea for that pumpkin time texture die and stencil set. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Everything I used today will be listed and linked in the description below. Please give me a thumbs up. Please leave a comment, and I will see you later.